I wait so long for that second ding here that I'm kind of like, is it there? Is it not? So just get ready to itch my nose, and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm live. So welcome to, I don't even know what the show's called. It's been a long Sunday. Rob's Sunday Comic Corner, Episode 5. I did last week's episode live, and I thought, I'm kind of liking doing the live thing. I was trying to do the share feature, on Google Hangouts. Another thing about being live, burp or anything like that, it's going to be on here. Trying to do the share feature where I could show comic screen caps and the intro video, which you heard. I'm going to have to kind of play with that. I like that Google's trying to do things a little bit different and make it easier. The screen share I thought was a lot better previously. I'm kind of one of those things, like once it's working, give people a chance to get used to it. I feel like every time I go to do a live video, something is different every time. At least now I know that the video is going to go live. If I say, hey, I'm going to go live at 7 o'clock, it's going to be actually 7 o'clock, and it works. So it's neither here nor there. So I won't do the live intro or the intro this time. I'm going to have to kind of play with it and do some private videos to myself or some of the other Rogue Show co-hosts to test that out on. So then we're going to go without all that stuff. There won't be any images to show here. Again, maybe I'm doing something wrong on my end. But welcome to episode 5. We're getting very close to convergence. So a lot of these titles are ending, or they're getting canceled, or they're turning into something else, and people are getting new costumes and some of that stuff. We'll talk about that once we kind of get here. Although I did learn one of the books that I'm reading, the Geoff Johns and Jason Fabok Justice League series, is retaining their new 52 costumes, which makes me extremely happy. I'm sure the new Superman costume will probably work. That's my that and Batman are my least two favorites out of the new costumes that they're showing. Something catches me off guard. I have 2 other figures that fell. All right, yes, anyway, you got to like it live. Wonder Woman's is not horrible, but it's nice to know that, and people have kind of said this about Geoff Johns' Justice League book, that it's kind of its own pocket universe. So probably for those people, kind of like myself, that enjoyed the new 52 costumes, they're doing their own thing, so it's not directly tied into the other books. I'll still be on Batman. I'll kind of see how that works. It may be somebody other than Bruce in that bat suit or the robot Chappie outfit. Superman's new costume, I'm not entirely sure. I actually kind of don't like it. I was going to use the word hate. I don't hate it, but there again, I haven't read anything, so I may have to read an issue or two and to kind of see how it is. But I'm not currently reading any Superman books other than Batman and Superman, so I've decided to cancel Batman and Superman after Convergence, partly because the new costumes are going to be there, and I don't want to be somebody that's like, oh, I don't like the new costume, it's horrible. I'm wearing my Red Robin New 52 costume t-shirt right here, and this was one of the costumes I had a big problem with in the beginning of the New 52, being that Tim Drake is my favorite character, and I grew to really kind of like the costume. I still miss the old Red Robin costume, but this one, it has grown on me, so I don't want to totally write something off. So I'll probably kind of have to hear how that's going to be. So we've got a few books to talk about here today. It's kind of a slower pull list for me this week. The first one we're going to do, like we do every single week here, and we're getting to the very end of it, is Batman Eternal. This is issue 50. Can you believe we're at issue 50 already of Batman Eternal? I had this great grand plan that the Rogue Show co-hosts and I, we would go through Batman Eternal, do like 4 or 5 issues at a time. And, time and things got away from me, or from us. So we're probably going to do another Rogue Show video coming up again here before too long. I want to apologize real quick before we get into this. I did shoot a bunch of action figure reviews. I know lately I've had a lot of live videos of me talking. So somebody's like, I want to see you review action figures again. That is coming up very quickly. I have 2 Marvel figures to review. Can you believe that? Marvel figures here. And I do have some other things coming up. Or real quick, I'll go through that at the end of the video, the things that are coming up here, review-wise on Rob's Rogues. But all that being said, that Batman Eternal was almost exactly a year ago. We have 2 more issues, 51 and 52. I think at one point they said it was going to go to 60, but I think they went back to their original plan and are going to do 52. So I don't think they'll be 53. So getting into this, of course, every issue is pretty much now picking up from where the last issue left off. About midway through, we were kind of following what Red Robin was doing and what Batgirl and Red Hood were doing. Batwing really hasn't been in it much up until recently, and now he's been like a sub character in the book. So he could have a bigger importance that we're not aware of towards the end. But I think this series is mainly going to focus on the main members of the Bat family. And when we get to the end of it, I kind of want to talk about the Thanksgiving Day picture that they showed was the lead-in, and see how many of those things that we can look at that picture again and go, oh, that's what all of that meant. And did some of those things pay off? So in this book are the main primary members of the Bat family. The only one missing is Damian from this. By this point, Damian's back alive and kicking and flying around with his father over the Batman and Robin title. So I don't know if they've totally brought Damian back in for this. Batman Eternal is going to get a second season or a second year. And the second year is going to be focusing more on the Robins, since it's Robin's 75th anniversary this year. But anyway, so this picks up from the last issue, and it's Batman coming in to finally save the day. Batman has really not been involved in the action out of the last, I want to say, 7 issues. Batman's been off talking to Ra's al Ghul, which I think he's still kind of under some type of an influence from Ra's al Ghul. If you go back to, I think, the very first Rob Sunday Comic Corner, was where I started doing this and talking about Ra's al Ghul kind of having some effect on Batman. But it doesn't seem to be playing that well here, although he does make mention that he's been through all corners of the globe, and everything's brought him back to Gotham City. And when he gets here, if you go back to the very first issue of Batman Eternal, where Batman had his shirt and cowl and cape removed, and he's tied to the bat signal, and the city's on fire, and he's had somebody's carved the bat symbol onto his chest, and he's kind of bleeding and bloody. We're kind of close to that scene here by the end of the book. This comes in with Batman landing a fighter jet on top of the Bane in a robotic type of suit, saving Red Hood, and Jason ends up making a comment to Bruce that was like, gee, I thought I was actually really going to meet my end here at the hands of Bane, and I thought you would have had a second Red Hood trophy case to display up against the first Red Hood, kind of referring to the Joker. And this issue kind of follows Batman going around saving all the members of the Bat family, since he is now able to reactivate all of their tech gear. He goes up next after Harper because she was fighting Mr. Freeze, and he is able to like dethaw her because Mr. Freeze froze her to the ground. So Batman kind of dethaws her, shocks the crap out of Mr. Freeze, and is putting everybody like unconscious that he is coming in contact with. So Batman doesn't have to, and the rest of the Bat family doesn't have to deal with those individuals anymore. So by landing the plane on top of Bane and crashing him silly, as Jason says in the book, Bane is unconscious, and then he shocks and he asks Harper what the voltage is going through the power lines that are over Mr. Freeze, and I forget what she tells him. He says that'll be enough to shock him unconscious. She ends up telling him to put him into like a catatonic state, or almost in a coma. So Batman is trying to systematically go through all the villains and make sure they're not going to be a threat to him or the rest of the Bat family, kind of like Nightfall, when Bane broke all the villains out from Arkham Asylum and Batman was going after each single one, making Batman weaker and weaker. And it's something that Jason points out to Batman and says, maybe you need to go home and rest. And Alfred chimes in and says, when was the last time you had any sleep? And Bruce says it was 36 hours ago. And Alfred says, and Julia Pennyworth also, because Julia is working out of Red Robin's Robin Nest set of computer networks. So they're both talking to Batman, saying, you need to take some time off and just get some rest. And of course, the whole city is in flames. Firefly is flying around, igniting half the city. So that is the person that is causing all the flame and destruction throughout Gotham City. So somebody is pulling his strings. And of course, Batman says, I can't take any time off. And even as the other members of the Bat family say, you know, we can fill in while you go rest. Of course, Bruce isn't going to do that. So he goes and saves Bluebird, Harper Row from Clayface. And then he goes next to Tim Drake, Red Robin. And Clayface is about ready to get the upper hand on Red Robin. It's kind of funny. He's using his glider cape and just kind of flying all over Clayface, or around him, just trying to stay afloat till his tech gear can get back on. Clayface ends up getting the better of Red Robin and kind of covers him in clay just as Batman comes in and uses Mr. Freeze's, and I have my cat crying here, as Mr. Freeze's grenades, kind of like from Batman Arkham City, and freezes Clayface, and then Red Robin is able to break free. And Batman turns on Red Robin's internet network, and it's kind of funny. Tim says, wow, I haven't been this disconnected from the internet since I was 13 years old. So that's kind of funny that Tim is relying on the internet and all of his tech gear. And another kind of funny little moment, which I kind of like, it's making me want to go back and read the Batgirl comic, which I don't have it here. The Batgirl Endgame, I'm going to wait and do the whole Endgame series once it completely wraps up, which will be nice during the 2 months where there are no books being released because of Convergence. So we'll kind of talk about it there. But she enters the room as Batman says, well, we have to go track down Batgirl. And she carries the Joker's daughter over her shoulder and throws her down to the ground and says, do you really think I was going to need that much help? I can do without all the tech gear myself, which kind of shows that Barbara's still a little bit of a badass. Batman gets a communication through his headset from Julia and says there's a beacon on top of a GCPD tower where the bat signal is. And Alfred tells him not to go and says, it's a trap. Somebody's luring you there. And that's where the massive amount of fire is. If you go back to issue 1 of Batman Eternal, we're kind of, like I said, we're kind of at that scene. So Batman, of course, doesn't listen to anybody. He grapnels himself away to the top of the tower and can hear this voice taunting him. And Batman is saying, you know, come out of the shadows and reveal yourself. And Batman ends up getting shocked and is not knocked unconscious, but is on the ground. And spoilers if you don't want to know. And again, like I said, I'm going to be spoiling all these in 3, 2, 1. It's the Clue Master. I did not see that coming at all. So it could be another red herring. For a while, we were thinking, oh, it's going to be Hush. Then it's going to be Ra's al Ghul, which I think it could be Ra's al Ghul. And I won't say the person's name again in case you've fast-forwarded and go, oh, crap, I fast-forwarded so you wouldn't say anything, and you said it. So it's not the individual that I thought of. So it makes me want to go back. I believe he makes his appearance early on in the book, and he is telling Batman, the clues were right in front of you. All you had to do was pay attention to the clues. So it really makes me wonder, with 2 issues left to go, is it really going to be, I don't want to say, again, his name because I've already said it here, but in case you were fast forwarding, is it really that individual? So this was a really good issue. I think the whole series has been good. It's been a year, so my my only complaint with this, we're down to the last 2 issues, and we still don't know 100% who the person is that's behind all of this, which, you know, I guess in most stories you get to the end, you're having the big knockdown, drag-out fight with, you know, the hero and the bad guy for the last quarter of the book. So the last quarter of Batman Eternal, we still really don't know who the villain is. But on the other hand, I'm okay with that. It's making you wait till the last possible moment. So Endgame takes place after the events of Batman Eternal. So some people say, could it be the Joker? So far, the Joker has not made an appearance in Batman Eternal, so I'm not entirely sure if that's who the actual bad guy is, or if it's a person I did mention. So yeah, Batman Eternal I thought was really good. And it was nice to see the whole Bat family working together. Again, I'm going to have my thoughts for everything after Batman Eternal wraps up. But I would have really liked more dedicated, like every week, have week 1 be an issue about Batman, week 2 be an issue about Batgirl, and issue 3 be about Red Robin, and kind of go through each of the members of the family. So you kind of, once a month, you're getting a story devoted to those individual characters. Maybe that's how Eternal 2 will go. So we're ramping up. We're only 2 more issues left to go for Batman Eternal, and it's been pretty good. Gotta take a drink live. Up next, Teen Titans, and I picked up a second copy of this because my local comic book store, or I use comic book store, the place where I'm getting comics from, I had some damaged comics, and of course, 2 of them were mine. One was the Batgirl tie-in to Endgame, and one was my Teen Titans. So I happened to go to another comic book store, and I thought, well, I'm not going to wait for another 2 weeks. I told them, don't worry about replacing my book. I'll just pick it up. I picked a second one up, a blank sketch cover, which I hope to go to a convention or 2 this summer. Maybe I can get Red Robin or, well, I know definitely Red Robin sketched by somebody on this book, so that'd be pretty cool. Teen Titans, again, continues on to what they're doing currently. This is going to be the next to last book before Convergence. The book that's going to be coming out right before Convergence is going to be Teen Titans Annual number 1. I think it's technically Annual number 4, but since the renumbering, it'll be Teen Titans 1 with Pfeiffer and Rocafort doing the art. So this is after the Teen Titans have saved New York, and Manchester Black is telling the Titans to celebrate. They have saved New York City. They're on top of the big, huge Jumbotron in Times Square, and they are, Manchester Black says, look at all these people. You saved everybody. You're in the limelight. And this series is really dealing with the Teen Titans being teens and living in the modern age, where the instant you do something, it's instantly on the internet. So of course everybody has their cell phones. And Manchester Black says, in the day and age of people being able to tweet and send instant messages and videos, people are out there making cardboard signs with your name on it. Of course, Beast Boy and Bunker and the new Power Girl are all kind of excited about it. And the only person that's really not keen on it, of course, is Red Robin. And Manchester Black's kind of whispering in Tim's ear, saying they're calling your name, not Tim's name, but there's signs for all the Teen Titans, and Tim is very disinterested. He's not trusting the situation. So it kind of follows the members of the Teen Titans around kind of the aftermath of the events that happened in New York City, and kind of like you would see somebody save the day, like a child drowning in a river. They'll have the police officer on the David Letterman show talking about the ordeal. So you have Gar going on like a Saturday Night Live talk show, and Bunker kind of just being there in the back wings. And people are like, oh my gosh, you're my favorite Teen Titans, Gar, and they're wanting him to get to his animal personas, and they're kind of staging somebody coming out of the audience and making Gar go between changing into a lion and a snake, thinking he's saving the day. And he says, well, wait, this was all done just to get me to do this for live television? So why didn't you let me in on it? They said, well, we want you to be spontaneous, and we want you to be a part of the action. If it was scripted, you might not act like yourself. So the stage manager's kind of off to the side and notices that Miguel there, Bunker's there, and say, oh, are you with Gar? And it's kind of one of those that, Bunker ends up wearing a mask, but it's kind of like the Avengers type of thing, that they're wearing masks, but their secret identities aren't that important, which I always kind of like, we're not supposed to know who they are. But anyway, now the stage manager's talking to Miguel and going, well, maybe you can be part of the TV show. It kind of moves on to Wonder Girl, and Wonder Girl's coming back to her apartment, and somebody is trying to beat up the Wonder Girl club, I guess. There's other people that are other girls that are inspired by Wonder Girl, kind of how Tanya was before she became Power Girl. It's kind of this little clique that's going around, and this guy is trying to entice Wonder Girl, the real Wonder Girl, to come in and have a fight or provoke Wonder Girl. And he's got glasses on with a camera lens right at Wonder Girl when she comes there to throw him over and punch him. And she's like, "Oh, thank goodness I broke this up before he got any footage." And Power Girl is kind of there going, "It's actually already on TV." There is a rock group that is inspired by Raven, and they're using Raven's lyrics, and well, actually see her lyrics. They're using her incantations as lyrics, and Raven's kind of getting caught up in it, and there's a stage brawl. So Raven gets into her full Raven form. So that's getting captured on film. So each of the Titans are doing something other than being Titans, and that's bothering Tim. And he's at the point of, we're losing focus. We're supposed to be saving and protecting the city, and now we're becoming celebrities, and we're not doing the thing that we're supposed to be doing. And Tim is still not trusting Manchester Black, and Manchester Black had said that there was a second device, or a first device rather. They destroyed and stopped the bomb from going off in New York, but that wasn't the actual device. So the Star Labs headquarters was destroyed, and Tim is going back through all the debris trying to piece together what has happened. And Manchester Black is saying, "Go out there, go be a celebrity, do what your fellow Titans are doing." And Tim says, "I don't have the time for it. It's not appropriate at this time." And Manchester Black is looking at his cell phone and says, "Well, somebody else is getting in on the action. Do you know who this is?" And ready? Spoilers. It's Superboy. So Superboy has come back, and we're not sure if it's Con-El or if it's John Kent, I think his name is, the alternate version of Superboy that is the child of Superman and Lois Lane from the future. So we're not entirely sure which Superboy this is, but it will be shown to us in the annual of Teen Titans. I'm really liking the Teen Titans relaunch, along with Batgirl. This is kind of the new wave of DC Comics, of making them more reader-friendly and being all hip and all that type of stuff. I'm really kind of hoping that Tim remains on the book. If he doesn't, I hope he gets his own series. And the last book I'll talk about, I'll kind of decipher some stuff out of that. But I do like the relaunch of Teen Titans, and I stayed on through 33 issues of Scott Lobdell's Teen Titans, which was a chore to read. There were some decent stories in there, but I wish this was the run. Pfeiffer and Rocafort's art has just been amazing. He was on the first 3 books, and then there was a chunk of books that he wasn't on, so I don't know if he had another project to do. But the last 3, I think, Rocafort has been back on. It's not his cover, but the interiors are all his, and I absolutely love his art. So Teen Titans has been really good. And like I said, we have the annual coming up, I believe next week it is, and then we'll be into Convergence on a lot of these titles. The last book, I do have one more to talk about, but the last book here, and this will also have one more, is an annual left before Convergence starts, is Batman and Superman. This is number 20. Pack is writing a really good story, which I did kind of say at the beginning, I was kind of thinking about dropping Batman and Superman. I've already kind of dropped it from my pull list. And part of it is, this was my way of having a Superman book that I could read. It was nice having Batman in it, obviously, as well. But going through Future's End and all those books, and Batman Eternal finally ending, I'm trying to cut my pull list back a little bit. And with the new costumes coming in, I may wait till the trade and pick it up and maybe hop back on. But this has this storyline's been really good. This is Superman's Joker. You know, who is Superman's Joker? And when we last left off, Superman was getting ready to face his grandmother and his aunt, his mother's sister, that were in the bottle, a city of Kandor. And the Phantom King has released them, and the Phantom King has He was the first person from Krypton ever placed into the Phantom Zone. So since Brainiac shrunk the city, and then the Phantom King has been able to get a hold of Kandor, he has brainwashed all the Kandorian citizens into thinking that it was Jor-El that was responsible for the destruction of Krypton. So they are all going after Superman, and here's Superman trying to fight against his grandmother and his aunt, and Supergirl is here also in the fight and knows them as well, as she's, you know, a relative also, and can't figure out why they are trying to kill Superman, and they are hell-bent on killing Superman. Batman's got a plan. He has a red Krypton staff that has part of the Krypton sun in it that is able to defuse the Kandorians from having superpowers now that they're having the yellow sun. Batman kind of, it almost looks like at one point that Superman's grandmother ends up killing Superman, but what we find out a few panels later is that Lois Lane, with the help of Ray Palmer, shrunk Batman down to miniature size and was able to deflect, or the beam was able to go past Batman and not kill him. So the hold that the Phantom King had on all the Kandorians, because of Batman activating this Krypton staff, which was kind of cool, dispersed all of their powers, and they started kind of being cured from the Phantom King's mind control, as it were. All but two of them. And of course, it's Superman's grandmother and his aunt. The only two living relatives that Superman has that he can have that kind of a part are in a like coma stasis after Batman is brought back to full size. And Lois Lane is like, you always play things close to the chest. And Batman is kind of like, that's just, when you don't have superpowers, you have to think of the unexpected all the time. So I think she still kind of has the hots for Batman at this point. And Superman's kind of sitting there with Kara at the end of the fight, realizing that his only connection to Krypton that he has of family are have to be put into this like stasis tube, that they have to be in this type of a Kryptonian coma, because if they come out, they are still brainwashed into thinking that Superman must pay for Jor-El's crimes for the destruction of Krypton. So Superman is this close to trying to have family, and the Phantom King has managed to get into their heads. So it appears that the Phantom King is kind of Superman's Joker. This is a really cool storyline. There is one more issue left that will be the annual. So I think this kind of wraps up the storyline. There may be a few beats in the annual, but I think it's going to be a one-off story that will kind of send us off into Convergence. So those were the books that I read this week. There were only 3. Technically, there were 4. Like I said, I had the Batgirl Endgame tie-in, but since I haven't talked about Endgame on here, I'm going to wait and do that until Endgame fully wraps up, and then when we're in our 2-month lull in between the books, DC books starting back up. Most of them are going to be starting up with issue 41 after Convergence. I'm on a couple of the Convergence titles, and then the main Convergence series will do the Endgame series there. And I'm going to have a special guest on for that if we can get our schedules right. The last thing I want to talk about, and this will be spoilerish, and again, I say that every time on here, so if you don't want to know about this, I'm just going to hold up this issue. Futures End 46. You see the bloodied logo of the Batman Beyond logo, and that is a plastic down here holding Terry McGinnis's body. So this point on, I do have something to say about this. If you don't want to know about it, you can fast forward on, and I will hold the book up again when I'm done talking about it, so that way you kind of know. So this issue for me, and again, we're getting ready to get into spoiler stuff if you don't want to know. Now, I have not read. I've got a stack here somewhere, but it's out of my view as you're watching me spin. Here we are. I'm at issue 11 on Convergence, and this is issue 46. I got so far behind reading this. This is going to be a nice read during Convergence, and I'll probably give my thoughts about this. So I've got plenty to read here, and the first 10 issues that I read were really good, and Azzarello has been writing a really good story. Knowing that there's going to be changes in the DCU, I'm going to set these down. I'm going to break a wrist here. Knowing there's going to be some changes in the DCU, it's going to be a kind of a soft reboot from Convergence. Some heroes from Convergence from old DCU may find their way into the current timeline, and we'll go into that once Convergence is here. I don't want to get too much into that. But I knew this issue was coming up, and it's kind of hard to go online or on Facebook or on the internet and kind of not see spoiler stuff about this, so you probably already know. It appears that Terry has died. I haven't read too much of the story, so I'll only talk about the part that I want to talk about here. Tim Drake, I forget the name he was going by for a while. He was believed dead with all the other Titans in the battle that was going on. He kind of limped off. I think his leg was broken for a time, so he grew a beard and he kind of healed and just kind of stayed under the radar. He operated a bar called the Duck Landing Pad or something like that. Again, I've only read up to issue 10 on the series. And Terry ends up coming in from the future, long story short, and finds Tim. And is kind of talking to him, says, and Lois Lane knows about Tim too. And they both corner him and go, we know you were Red Robin. We know you were the leader of the Teen Titans. And this whole time he's just been reluctant, like, leave me alone. I hung up my cape a long time ago. I'm done. Batman and I had our squabble or whatever it was. So he's kind of been the reluctant hero, and more of the latter issues, Tim's kind of getting into the game again. He's kind of doing some undercover stuff with Terry and his little band, but he's still kind of playing it back. Again, I'm talking about something I haven't quite read. There is a Batman Joker type of robot looking thing that's half Batman, half the Joker. And this is the thing that ends up killing Terry as far as we can tell in this book. So he dies in Plastique's arms, and Tim is right there. And the last thing that Terry says to Tim is, are you ready to come to the future? And you could take that two ways. People are thinking that Tim Drake is going to become the new Batman Beyond, or it could be that Terry is just telling Tim, you need to live in the now. Quit trying to be this other individual, some dude that's trying to do the nice thing and run this bar and stay out of the fight. The world, the earth needs a hero right now. You need to come into the future. You're still living in the past from the previous war. So you can take that one of two ways. And some people are speculating that this is because of the DC continuity, that they're trying to separate, that story is more important than continuity. Batman Beyond has always been tied to the animated series. Well, you're trying to bring some of the events from Batman Beyond, the animated series. Well, that kind of stems into the normal Batman animated series, where there was no Jason Todd, where Tim Drake kind of gets possessed and turned over by the Joker, and Tim ends up killing the Joker. So you've got that whole storyline and all the things that are going on in Batman Beyond. So when they brought Batman Beyond into the current DCU, and for people who don't know, the Future's End story takes 5 places into the future from, let me get this here. So the Tim Drake from Teen Titans here is not the same Tim Drake from the Future's End. It's a Tim Drake from 5 years from this point, or so to speak. So you have a bearded Tim Drake that's probably in his mid-20s, as opposed to a Tim Drake that's in his late to mid-teens, depending on the age that they say Tim Drake is. So Tim Drake could essentially have 2 books in DC Comics. One is potentially Batman Beyond, and the other in the pages of Teen Titans or Batman, or maybe his own Red Robin series. So this has some people upset, for people that are fans of Batman Beyond that go, well, I'm a fan of Terry McGinnis, and I'm one of those people. I never really cared for Batman Beyond. I'm probably going to get a lot of boos for that. I think it was at a time that I kind of got out of the cartoon thing, and I was starting to play in bands and stuff like that. But my view of Batman Beyond has always, this is probably poor, but has been like Back to the Future 2. Back to the Future 2 was so far trying to guess what 2015 was going to be like. October of this year, 2015, is when Marty McFly goes into the future. So watch that movie in October. It was October 5th, 1955. So October 5th, 2015, and find out if we have a flying car. And you know, you're trying to do something so far into the future that I looked at Batman Beyond and go, it's kind of, I don't want to say silly, because there were some decent episodes. I've only seen a handful of them, so I don't want to poo-poo over something that somebody else really likes, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. And the problem doing a future story, how do I say this to make sense? You have a future story that's going on while the present is going on. The present is constantly changing. So that means when Batman Beyond started, there was no Damian around in the DCU. So I believe if Damian was in the proper DC universe, he would have been Batman Beyond. They wouldn't have created Terry McGinnis. They probably would have looked at it and said, oh, this is a good idea for a series. Let's see what Damian's going to be like growing up. So we'll make him Batman Beyond. So I always kind of looked at Batman Beyond like, well, why didn't Tim ever get to the role of becoming Batman? At some point, Dick was probably Batman, or they had their falling out in the Batman Beyond universe. So there's a lot of things there. So I think the reason why it could potentially be Tim as the new Batman Beyond after Convergence, it's a way of DC Comics completely severing the ties of the animated universe and maintaining their, what they're calling their definitive, you know, future universe. So I'll like it or love it. That could be what's going on. Some people have also speculated that after Futures End wraps up and Convergence wraps up, it'll be a reset. Terry will be back in the future, and it'll just be Tim coming into the hero that he's supposed to be. So I just kind of said all that to talk about, we're really not led to believe if Tim is in fact going to be Batman Beyond. If he is, I kind of jumped on the Batman Beyond title. It's obviously not out yet, but after Convergence, because if it is, it'd be kind of cool to see what Tim Drake is going to be like as Batman Beyond. Now, that being said, it's one of those that I always go, why change something that doesn't need to be changed? Even though I'm not a fan of the Batman Beyond, just because I haven't watched enough of it or read enough of the Batman Beyond comics that Kyle Higgins was doing that I heard were very good. And DC is saying that story is going to take precedence over continuity, then why bring Terry into the DC proper universe at all? Just keep the Batman Beyond continuity going, that it's tied into the animated universe on its own, and it could be fine and be all that. So by trying to bring Batman Beyond back in, they're having to look at it and go, all right, we've got to change some stuff around, because the events in Batman Beyond do not line up with currently with Batman's history, because Damian's in there. Tim is still very much active. And if you try and go into the way of how, you know, Tim was brainwashed by the Joker, that didn't happen in the proper DC universe. You can see where the headache is lying. So I think that's their way of cutting it, severing it. Again, that's just my speculation, just because this issue has come out. And there's 2 or 3 more issues left from Futures End also. So both Batman Eternal and Futures End are wrapping up right around the same time. I think Futures End has 1 or 2 more issues ahead of Batman Eternal, because Batman Eternal started for about a month, and then Futures End started. So, and Futures End is directly going to go right into the Convergence title. So we'll probably find out more there of what's going on. So I'm one of those of, I don't like when they're trying to change ethnicities of characters that don't need to be changed. They're turning characters in from being something that they're not. That's like making John Stewart white, you know, or they made Wally West African American, which is fine. not that I have a problem with that. If you want to make an African American speedster, then just make one. Don't change the ethnicity of a character just because you feel you have to, or don't go changing a character saying, well, we like the Batman Beyond character, but for all the people that were fans of Terry McGinnis, we're going to cut him and kill him off and put in somebody else that was never actually Batman Beyond. So it's those type of things. I think it's DC wanting their cake and eat it too at the same time. Print the Batman Beyond comic. There are people out there that will continue to read Batman Beyond because they fell in love with the cartoon series. I wasn't one of them, and that's cool. That's fine. It doesn't have to appeal to me. But now, because my favorite DC Comics character, Tim Drake, could potentially be Batman Beyond, I find myself going, great, this was kind of a character or series I wasn't a real fan of, and now because my favorite character could potentially be the new Batman Beyond, I'm going to fall down the rabbit hole. So maybe it won't be Tim, maybe it will. So like I said, I just read the last few issues leading up to this, and like I showed you, I have a huge stack here of Futures End books to read during the time of Convergence, and hopefully I can catch up. That's quite a few books to be at issue 10, and this is what, issue 46. So I'll hold this back up. There we go. So if you were fast forwarding and I was talking about stuff that you didn't want to know, now it's going to be clear, so you're okay. That is going to be the end of Rob's Sunday Comic Corner. So I see that I have 3 viewers here. Thank you for the 3 that tuned in. I know I got this message out late. I was recording a podcast for Robin Everyone Loves the Drake that you can find over at the BatmanUniverse.net. It's on iTunes and Windows Media. So that'll be up this Wednesday, the new episode. A couple house cleaning things before I sign off. I've had 3 live videos now in a row. I shot a whole bunch of reviews this weekend. The 2 Marvel figures that I have. The month of April is Robin's actual 75th anniversary. That's when Robin debuted in DC Comics issue 39. I think I'm going to get that right. So I can't believe I'm a big Robin fan. I can't remember the issue off the top of my head. I'm trying to look around. I don't think I have the poster up anymore. But yes, it was the month of April. So the month of April, I'm going to have Robin reviews of action figures or Robin type of things for you to enjoy, since obviously I'm a big, Robin fan here. So that's going to be a big month here. I'm celebrating 75 years of Robin on my podcast because it's devoted to Tim Drake. He's a Robin. So like I said, that'll be up on Wednesday. I just have to edit a couple more things on that. Like I said, I've got a couple Marvel figures coming, and then I have a Robin series of reviews. And the last thing, I'm working on a new podcast with a friend of mine. And I don't want to say too much because I want to let him or her kind of give some of the things that we're going to be doing. So it's a series of comics. It's going to be another comic book podcast. And it's a series that I've never read before, that I've always wanted to read. And so I've been picking up the trades at local comic stores or conventions. I've been getting really, really cheap. So I have the first set. So I don't want to say what it is entirely. I'm going to kind of let her, excuse me, kind of announce that. We've been kind of going back and forth, and they're going to be doing the art, and I believe they're going to title what the podcast is going to be, and we'll just have to kind of find a home for the podcast. So I may kind of reach out to Chapman Films and see where he's hosting his Goodnight Sleepyhead podcast. So give a shout out to him. He's got a Goodnight Sleepyhead video podcast on his YouTube page and his Facebook page, and then a what's they called? Chapman and Harwood's Goodnight Sleepyhead, Red Light, Little Songs, Mutual Appreciation Podcast. Their podcast title gets longer and longer. So there's a couple plugs for some of my friends there. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of Rob's Sunday Comic Corner. This is episode 5, and I promise the next review will be an actual review, and I believe the review that I just shot, I'd have to edit it. It'll probably be up Tuesday, and maybe probably more likely Wednesday, since it's around 7:45. I don't think I'll edit any more tonight, but it'll be Hawkeye from the Marvel Legends line that's been currently released. So I've got Hawkeye and Daredevil coming up, and then that'll probably lead me into my Robin series. And the last thing that'll close my Robin series will be the Robin Rises podcast that I've been working on. It'll be a YouTube thing that you can listen to, that I will have images from the comics. So I was going to do that earlier, but I thought, well, Robin's 75th anniversary is coming up, and Tomasi and Gleason did such a great job on Robin Rises. I know there's people out there that are probably just starting to warm up to liking Damian. Tim Drake is my favorite, and I hated Damian because Grant Morrison, not because of Grant Morrison, but Grant Morrison created Damian and put him into being Robin, which kicked out my favorite Robin. So just because of that, I hated Damian. I hated the way that he was written. And then I started to read Damian in the Batman Reborn series, where Dick Grayson was filling in for Bruce when Bruce was dead, lost in time, and Damian was Robin. And I was like, man, this little snot-nosed punk is actually starting to be pretty cool. But what really solidified Damian being my second favorite Robin was Tomasi and Gleason's Batman run. And then Grant Morrison killed him off. And it was Tomasi and Gleason said, you know what? Damian deserves to be around. He's a great character. And then the Hunt for Robin and Robin Rises was the storyline that just elevated for me. It's beautifully written, beautifully drawn, and is arguably one of my top 5 favorite Batman stories. I would say it's one of my top 5 Robin stories, but it's actually more of a story of Batman dealing with the loss of Damian, and a father that is going to go to literally the ends of the earth and beyond to try and bring his son's body back that has been taken. And then he finds out that there might be a chance to actually bring Damian back to life. It's really good. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. That will end the month of April on my Robin series. So I'm done blathering here. It's time to go get a bite to eat. Thanks for watching this episode, and I promise the next video you see here will be an actual action figure review. Thanks to the new subscribers that I have recently. I'm getting so close to 900. That means an awful lot. We'll see you guys next week, and I believe we have about one more week of comics that are going to be printed, and then there's going to be a 2-month hiatus and of DC Comics. That they won't be printing them. It'll just be the Convergence titles that are going on. So I'm on, like I said, 2 or 3 of those, and then the main Convergence title. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Rob's Sunday Comic Corner. So long.